Im Ying, please. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha, the Thai, the all teachers and all practitioners. Yesterday afternoon, I listened to Lay Master Wei Li talking about Buddhism as a Dharma of non-dualism. Could you please talk more about this? I'm not sure. I'm not very clear on this. Thank you, Thank you, Thai. When we say Buddhism is the Dharma of non-dualism, or even in when the sixth patriarch talked about it in the Platform Sutra, he said meditation, liberation is not Buddhism, because Buddhism is non-dualism. Because when we talk about concentration, it's the opposite of turbulence, or liberation is the opposite of constraint. All of those are dualistic dharma. So the ultimate end of Buddhism is to move away from all duality and end all attachment. And therefore we said Buddhism is in reality a dharma of non-dualism. The reason why we see everything as opposites or dualistic is because we are deluded. We enter the stream of delusion, and that's why we lost the true nature of ourselves. Just like when the appearance of the sickness show up, then the appearance of health will be covered up. So in order to help manifest the true nature, or in other way, in order to let the healthy state show up, then we have to treat the sick state. So originally there is no duality, but because we attach, that's why we see everything as dualistic. So the healthy state or the sick state are both within the same body. As long as we treat the sickness, then everything will come to its original state. In the Complete Enlightenment Sutra, the Buddha has 4 forms of examples. Because of our wrong perception, that's why we see everything as two. Just like when our body spins, that's why we feel dizzy and we see the house as spinning. So, and then we feel like the house is spinning and we want to stop the house from spinning. But in reality, the house never spins. So we cannot find a way to stop the house from spinning. It's because of our wrong perception, because we feel dizzy. That's why we thought that the house spinning. Therefore, the house originally never spins, so there is no stopping it from spinning. Same thing. Birth and death is because of the deluded mind, wrong perception. That's why we see birth and death. And we said we cultivate in order to end all birth and death, but in reality, there's no birth and death, and therefore there's no ending of birth and death. Just like there's no old age and death, that's why there's no ending of old age and death. Just like what is mentioned in the Heart Sutra. When we say all of that, it is a way to sweep all of the 12 interdependent links, sweep away the notion of birth and death. So again, back to the Complete Enlightenment Sutra. When we look at the moon, we feel and we thought that the cloud is moving from the moon. But we thought that the moon is moving away from the cloud, but actually it's just the cloud moving because of the wind. So all of those are just wrong perception of our consciousness. Like our patriot said, the picture in general, it's flat. It doesn't have any depth. But when the artist is able to draw well, we will be able to see the depth of the picture. But in reality, when we come and touch the picture, it's all flat. So that is another way of talking about a wrong perception. Like when we look at the screen, we saw different pictures moving, but it's in reality, all of those are wrong perception too, because everything is just flat in the screen. It's just a shadow. So in life, we keep chasing after forms and shadows without realizing what is real. And because of our attachment, subject-object duality, that's why we generate a lot of wrong view. Therefore, return to Buddhism, being able to understand the ultimate truth of non-duality. We have to find a way to see the self-nature in order to understand the Dharma of non-duality. That's why for a Zen practitioner, it is necessary to reach enlightenment. And that's why we say Buddhism is a non-dualistic Dharma. So all of the sayings of the Buddha and the patriots are skillful means to help us enter straight into the essence of the true mind. It is not there for us to try to understand or try to explain. We have to practice in order to truly get the non-dualistic Dharma. Do you understand? Yes, I do. Thank you, Thầy. Kim Ying has another question. Dear Thầy, dear everyone, and continue with another talk that the master taught. Give it our lay master give for a practitioner. That practitioner said that the belief in the mind of this practitioner is 100%, and also his belief in the method is also 100%. And the practitioner said, doesn't matter how it goes, he will not change his mind. He will keep the practice. Then our lay master said, you only has 50% of the belief in the mind. I listened a little bit about that piece of the Dharma talk. Could you please talk more about what the lay master said, so we can be clear about the belief in the mind? Thank you, Thầy. When we said belief in the mind, in reality, it is not simple. If we are not clever, then we, in order to understand the idea of the patriots, then we might generate attachment, and instead of belief in the true mind, we believe in the attachment. Even if we don't give up on the method, if we have the wrong belief, then we will be in the wrong path. When a person raises the mind to cultivate the entire life until becoming a Buddha, and when we raise that mind and then we get the advice from the wise teacher and Buddha and the patriot, it's still just on the principle. We still are challenged by a lot of karmic habits, and also our practice, our action still not go align with the idea of the Buddha and the patriots. We can see that, for example, the teacher might know his students' mind very well, or the parent might know the child's mind very well. But only when that parent is caring, truly care about the child, then they will be able to truly see and understand the child, or else they still not be able to understand their child. So for our lay master, when he talks to that practitioner, he knows that that person only has 50% belief in the mind. It's not complete yet. And then that belief can change. It is unstable. It can increase or decrease. If that person has practiced uninterruptedly and practice well, then that belief can increase. But if he just assume, that his belief is complete, but he doesn't really cultivate well, then it's still not what he thinks he is. So that is the common of a wise teacher to help the practitioner, remind the practitioner. Some that's for that practitioner. He speak out loud for other practitioners. Some of them just don't say anything. He also make a wish and also practice, but still their belief is not 100%. Their mind get changing, get procrastinating, and get controlled by a lot of deluded thoughts, and they are not able to practice diligently. And we said we believe in the mind, and we always look forward to the Hoa Thou, but in reality, we tend to chase after our attachment and discrimination more. We chase after form, sound, fame, we chase after subject, objects, karmic habits, ignorance, and attachment instead of moving away from them. Like the Buddha said, we tend to exit the stream, look outward instead of looking inward, and enter the stream. So that is our fault, but we don't realize. So for a Buddhist, we are recommended to stay close to the Triple Gems, rely on the Dharma of the Buddha, and rely on the Dharma friends, wise teachers to help remind us. It's like we rely on the right Dharma on our path, and we rely on one another when we walk on that path, so that energy of the right Dharma can help us, is strong enough to help us overcome all of those obstacles, for us to eventually reach our achievement. That's why that 50% belief has that meaning. Sư cô Pháp Tuệ, please.
Dạ, Nam mô Bổn Sư Thích Ca Mâu Ni Phật. Con kính bạch trên quý thầy, quý sư cô cùng thiền đường đại chúng. Sư phụ nghe con nói không?
Sangha and practitioners.
Dạ, con có một cái thắc mắc về cái mà giới luật á.
I have a question about the precepts. Could you please help me
về cái giới vọng ngữ á, sư phụ?
About the precept about the wrong speech.
Cái giới vọng ngữ mà cái
when we
ái
talk
ngữ,
about the precept about wrong speech, and when we talk about
trong giới có nói rằng nếu mà
kind speech,
nếu mà mình nói mình chứng
if we
thì mình
said we
rơi vào
attain
cái đại vọng ngữ,
something, then we fall into, and we actually violate
chia sẻ về cái kinh nghiệm tu tập
speech.
Thì cũng chia sẻ ra những cái mà mình có cái kinh nghiệm qua trên cái sự tu tập để cho tất cả những bạn đồng tham có cái niềm tin và rõ ràng hơn trên cái sự tu tập của mình. Thì cái này nó có bị rơi vô cái vọng ngữ không ạ?
So it's saying like that, make us violate the precept of speech. Thank you, Thầy. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. Thầy said the violating of the precept where we haven't attained, but we said we attain, then that is a big violation of the precept of speech. But for sharing of Buddhism, we have to depend on the circumstances. We shouldn't just generate our own idea and make mistake and not go with the idea of the Buddha and the patriarch. Then we actually just like an outsider. Like if we don't have a clear understanding, a clear be clear on everything, but we assume that we know everything, just like the story of a person who just touch a part of the elephant, like just touch the feet or just touch the tail and assume that they already know the entire elephant. Like a blind person touch the tail would think the elephant is different from a blind person touch the feet, etc. So for us, if we don't have a complete knowing, but we just talk based on our own limited knowing, assuming that we already know everything, then that is not wise. Because most of the time we just think that we are right, but it's actually not true. So that is a way of violating the speech precepts or being arrogant. Or for example, a person that, we feel like connected and go along with what we want, then we actually fall into attachment of, love, or attachment of ignorance. So we don't prohibit you from sharing your experience of practice, but you have to be very clever and make sure that what you're saying is aligned with the right Dharma. Nobody is sure 100%, so don't assume that we are completely certain So now, only when you for sure that you know everything completely, or else don't say like you are very certain. So back to the practice, when you share your experience, you have to share your own experience of what you're going through on the practice, not just, listen to someone else talking and then resharing that. Because doing that, we just imitate someone without really understanding. So that is considered slandering. That is very dangerous. So we have to be very cautious. Like our patriot master Ba Trường said, if we answer wrong, even just one question, that one of the person have to be in the animal realm for 500 years. Because like in the story, one of the person asked if the monastic will fall into cause and effect, and that person said no, that person doesn't fall into cause and effect. And then that person became an animal for 500 years after that he met Master Ba Trường. Master Ba Trường said that person will not be deluded by cause and effect. He didn't say whether that person still fall into the cause and effect or not. He just say that person will not be deluded by cause and effects. So the teaching of the wise teacher have to make sure that the student doesn't fall into two sides of duality. Like when Pháp Đạt asked the sixth patriarch whether he should still consider to recite the Lotus Sutra, the sixth patriarch doesn't say whether he should or shouldn't. He just tell Pháp Đạt that what's wrong with the sutra. And after listening to that, Master Pháp Đạt was able to understand. So we tend to just moving between right and wrong, good and bad, and never accept that we are making mistakes. Because our attachment keep generating to opposite side. So for Zen practitioner, we have to maintain the practice. Only the practice will help sweep away all of the wrong view, attachment, and ignorance. Our practice is very simple. As the question raised the doubt, even if right now we are not very familiar with the practice, even if we cannot raise the doubt, we should still continue with the practice. We have to practice until the doubt is raised. After the doubt is raised, we have to continue to practice until the doubt is uninterrupted. We don't recommend should or shouldn't, because should or shouldn't all fall into attachment. Our study is to help us move away from duality and go aligned with the skillful means, the intention, the idea of the Buddha and the patriarch, without making us getting stuck into the skillful means. So the learning and the practice have to go together. Doesn't matter how much you learn, on theory, without the practice, you won't be able to digest the teachings of the Buddha and the patriarch. Doesn't matter how much you can memorize. If you cannot put it into practice, it doesn't help. So we have to be very careful, or else doesn't matter what we do, very easily we will fall into mistakes. For example, when we talk about the precepts, we might be attached to the precepts as well. If you just practice until we don't really, concern about anything else, just focus on the practice. Like Master Lai Wei, he practiced until where he forget about everything else. Even when he violate the rules, he still just continue to maintain the practice, and he's willing to be beaten. Even if he violate the rules, he just keep the practice. But we cannot just imitate our patriots. It has to truly come from our determination to break through birth and death. You understand? Yes. Your talk is very clear. Thank you very much, thầy. Just like what you said, I feel if we don't have the practice, we will fall into such state where we attach to the view, attach to the person, others, and self. I have the chance to witness the talk between two different practitioners. One of them said, when we share, if we see someone's mistake and we share our feedback and make that person feel angry, then it means that we don't really practice with the right Dharma. That's why I understand from that meaning, from what that person meaning, like if we say, when we say something that not in the right circumstances, it will make us violate the precepts of speech, right? So I feel like it's really difficult. I said we all fall into attachment if we're not clever. That's why the Buddha said we have to be very clever with the skillful means. If you feel like you don't have the ability to use that skillful means, then just, be joyful. And let go. In the precepts also, it has some of the rules to help stop the fighting. Or for example, for a bodhisattva, a person breaks something and then blame on that person. The bodhisattva person will just, take the mistake towards them, because that person already take the bodhisattva precept, so he take the wrong towards himself and leave the right to the other person. That is, even though he actually, do the wrong speech, but he instead, practicing his bodhisattva precepts. So after all, to keep the precepts, it has to also come from the mind. The true way of keep the precepts, it has to come from the sincerity of the mind. We want to try to avoid all of the bad deeds and do all of the good deeds. So all of the bad deeds come from attachment. All of the good deeds come from the cultivation. The wholesome deeds, it's come from our own mind, our own pure mind. That is the verse to help us to maintain the precepts. So the precepts of wrong speech, sometimes we say nice words, it's not to flatter someone. We just say the nice words to help people to feel joyful and enter the way. That is considered good speech, kind speech to help people to enter the Dharma of liberation of Buddhism. All of those are skillful means. So always remember, if attachment is the wrong way, and attachment is the right way. But don't just take advantage of that. You have to be very sincere. Don't just say, oh, I say that as a skillful means, while in reality, you just do it based on your attachment. But a lot of us take the precepts for granted because of very small gain, that is not worth it. So if we can practice, the stronger we can practice, then doesn't matter where we are, we will be able to recognize the right Dharma of the Buddha. Attachment is the wrong Dharma, and attachment is the right Dharma. I understand. Thank you, Master. Suko Zubing has a question. I translate into Vietnamese. Can you please read? I'm gonna read it to you, Thầy. Suko Zubing said, people nowadays spend time more for the normal things and forget about their original wish. Then how can we change ourselves? Could you please help instruct more? And how can we how can we recognize a person who is truly a monastic versus a person who is not a monastic? Could you please help? I said, liberation, we have to end attachment. Ending attachment is liberation. Doesn't matter what the form is, even if it's under the form of a monastic, but they have all the attachment, then that wouldn't be considered liberation. But for a true monastic that the Buddha taught, the person who leaves the house, that represent the three things: to get out of the worldly house, home, to get out of the affliction house, and to get out of the three realms house. So a lot of people said, I get out of the house and learn Buddhism. But instead, they don't truly study Buddhism. They just increase more of attachment, arrogance, and they look down on other people, thinking that they study everything and know everything compared to other people. They don't know anything compared to him. So that is, they actually fall into the outsider path, not really study Buddhism. So the Buddha said Buddhism is a dharma of enlightenment, to help all sentient beings to reach enlightenment. Buddhism is not philosophy, because philosophy is still just teach people knowledge. And also Buddhism is not religion, because it doesn't just satisfies people's faith, because just satisfy people's faith is superstitious. Even if someone just have faith in other people's force, the outside force, but don't really believe in their own practice, then that is also superstition. So Buddhism is a way to complete liberation. It's not a philosophy nor a religion. The practice is very practical, but because our ignorance and attachment, that's why we cannot recognize. That's why study Buddhism, we have to be very careful. We always compare between people in the past versus now, but the people in the past and now all have attachment. But people in the past, their attachment is less, and that's why their mind is more sincere. Versus people nowadays, they are smarter. Their consciousness is more active, and because of that, their morality decrease, their honesty decrease, their sincerity decrease. So, but if we are sincere, then doesn't matter which time we are at, we still be able to reach liberation. For the people nowadays, they have a lot of attachment and obstacles. That's why they face more difficulties versus the people in the past. They are more simple. They follow morality. They follow orders. Relationship between husband and wife, parents and children, versus the people nowadays. They just care more about their own enjoyment, their own attachment, enjoyment, and what they want, and not really follow the fundamental of morality. They just, care more about money, fame, power. And because of that, they always keep fighting even between family members, between people in the same society, between nations. They keep follow after greed, anger, and ignorance and illusion, instead of doing things because of common morality, of common society, but instead each of them keep accumulate possession for themselves and praise the people that have more personal possession. So for us, we know that ignorance and attachment will become more if the mind is not sincere. So now we just need to return to help the mind become more sincere. That's the way to help us reach enlightenment. Thank you, Thầy. The time is up as well. Goodbye, everyone. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha.